Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, or it's your first time seeing my beautiful face, my name is Oni, Dr. Oni. I am a PGY1 resident physician. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about ways to start getting yourself prepared for residency applications. If you've been following me for some time, you know, like most of last year and the beginning of this year, I was in my residency application phase, going through it. In several older videos I talked about my residency application, and I got a lot of questions. In fact, throughout last year and most of this year, you guys were asking me questions. Like, y'all were really about it. You know, y'all really wanted to know how to prepare for residency applications, like the things that you could probably start doing right now as a first year, as a second year, as a third year med student, and especially those who are international medical students who resonate with me because I graduated as an international medical student. And so I'm going to try and answer as many of those questions on this video. I'm going to try and make it a short, straightforward video. If there's anything that I've said that you'd like more information on, please leave a comment in the comment section. Ask me questions down there and I'll make a video or respond to them as soon as I can. Before we get started, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, join the family. So I have about 4 different things, big picture things that I was gonna share in this video, and we're just gonna go straight into the video. So if you watched my residency application video that I made, like just talking about matching and all that stuff, one of the things that I talked about was how important choosing a specialty is and how that kind of delayed me a little bit with my applications. Having been through the process and knowing that that was something that kind of delayed me, I mean, I'm still okay as it is right now. I'm extremely happy that it ended up working out the way it worked out. You know, things work out for a reason. Maybe my story was supposed to go this way so that I end up with the specialty that I ended up with. So, you know, do your best and just leave the rest. But choosing a specialty, honestly, is one of the hardest things. I don't think in medicine we really genuinely talk about how difficult it could be to choose a specialty. But this would be my tips when it comes to choosing a specialty. When you get into medical school as a PGY1, PGY2, whatever the case might be, or you're starting your clinical rotations in third year, be very open about every specialty. Even if you've come in with okay, this is what I want to do, the only reason I came into medicine in the first place is to do this, still keep an open mind about everything, because there's been people who've done that and then literally by third year realize oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. This is not what I want to do. So be very open-minded to all specialties, because you've been given an opportunity to go to med school, you've been given an opportunity to become a doctor. You can literally be whatever type of doctor you want to be. You have so many specialties to explore, so don't limit yourself. You know, you're still going through med school, you still have to learn all these things anyway. You still have to take the board exams and all that stuff. You still have to learn everything. So going with an open mind, you might end up finding something that you like about, you know, something else. The second thing I would advise is to definitely do shadowing. Try shadowing doctors in different specialties, or even just the one specialty that you're thinking about, or the 2, 3, 4 specialties that you're thinking about. As a first year, second year, I think these are really good times to just shadow doctors in those fields and ask as many questions as you can, just so you truly understand what the work-life balance is with those specialties, what they do day to day, the cases they see. These are things that actually interest you. In my head, I don't think I really understood what I was looking for as a pre-med when I was shadowing as compared to as a med student when I was shadowing. Even as a third year, I was much more intentional. I knew what I wanted to find when I was shadowing, more than I knew in my first or second year. But at least as a first or second year, you're really exploring all fields. So that's what I would advise anyone to do. If you're not really sure what you want to do, you're just you know what, I've come into this place, I want to be open-minded to everything, and now you're overwhelmed because there is a lot of options. Take it, you know, a step at a time. Try to figure out if you're more into surgical stuff, if you love working with your hands and you can't see yourself not working with your hands, versus medicine. Or, you know, maybe you want to do something more inpatient versus outpatient where you're outside in the clinics and stuff. Is there a setting that you prefer? You know, is there a certain population of people you prefer working with? Would you rather work with women? Would you rather work with kids? Would you rather work with adults? So these are all big picture type questions you can start asking. There's so many options out there, so it can get overwhelming. For me, honestly, the specialty that I came in thinking I was going to do is so far from the specialty that I ended up doing. If you had told me last year that this was the specialty I was going to go into, I'd be like, you're a liar. And that's because I didn't get the opportunity to actually shadow, and also at the time I didn't really know what I was looking for. I didn't know what mattered to me. And I think by the time I started third year and I started doing rotations as a third year, I was like more intentional about like doing rotations. And I would have conversation with my dad, my parents, my family, my friends. And I was just like, you know what? I love this, but I love this more. And I love this aspect of my life versus this. There was so much I had to, you guys, it was one of the biggest mental gymnastics I've ever had to go through. Literally. And what's funny is it wasn't just me dealing with this. A lot of my friends actually dealt with this. I'm talking undergrad friends, I'm talking med school friends. Like, we struggled so hard to finally decide on a specialty that we wanted to do. And I'm just gonna throw this out here. I also think that this tends to happen also with minority medical students who didn't have the option to find mentorship in other people who look like them, who were not exposed to the medical field as much as maybe their classmates might have been. Because I had classmates who came like, okay, this is what I want to do because I already worked with this doctor as an undergrad. Like, they've done so much, you know, they have family members in medicine. And so having this conversation is like, okay, I already know what I want to do. Like, I've been exposed to this medicine thing my whole life, so much so that I know what I want to do and what's important to me. For me, it's like, it's hard finding people, especially in the medical field, that kind of look like you, especially as a Black woman in medicine. There's only like 2% of us. So it was very hard to find people who was like, okay, I can see myself doing this, or, you know, I love how you do this. It was such a struggle. And so that's why I would advise anyone, like, literally start from now as a first year, as a second year, and start looking at different like options there are and exploring things, asking questions about like, okay, what made you choose a specialty? What was important to you? Why was this specialty? Why did you choose a specialty over others? If you were to go back in time, would you change the specialty? Would you stick to the specialty? You know, those are questions that you can ask like any attending that you're working with, any resident that you're working with, just so you can start thinking about it as early as a first year and a second year. Whatever you decide on is what you're going to do for the rest of your life, most likely. And that's such a huge decision to make when you've only been exposed to 1 month of rotations. Only 1 month of rotations to decide what you want to do for the rest of your life is a very short time. And before you know it, it's time to apply. All your friends are like doing research. They've done research. They're doing all these things. They're reaching out to mentors, and you're still struggling like, what the hell do I want to do? Anyway, if this is something that you guys want me to talk about, like how my like process was with choosing a specialty, the reasons that I ended up deciding on neurology very last minute, if these are questions that you have, please leave it in the comment section. But that's definitely the first step, okay? Which is a long one. So moving on from specialty, the second biggest thing to get yourself prepared for residency application, and this is specifically for my international medical students and international medical applicants, is visa options. And I'm looking into programs that would actually sponsor you on a work visa. Oh, again, this would just be like big picture, just be straight to the point. But if you have any questions on what I've just said, please leave it in the comment section and I'll try and respond. But there's three main ones. There's the H-1B, there's the J-1, and there's the O-1 visa. So the H-1B, J-1 are the two most common like work visa options, but the O-1 I will talk about later. So unfortunately, and this is something that I didn't realize until late, but medicine is not one of those things that qualify for OPT extension. And so if you've been here for some time, you're probably aware that there's OPT, which is what helps you or what enables you to work after you're done with school. And that's what keeps you legal in the country. It's what enables you to work. So the OPT only allows you to work for a year. If you want to work for longer than a year, you have to apply for OPT extension. Now, the OPT extension is only available to people in STEM, and STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. Medicine is not one of those things that qualify for the OPT extension. And so what happens is that for your first year, straight out of graduating med school, your first year, you're most likely going to do it on OPT because everybody gets OPT, but then you're not going to be able to extend it. And so you have to work for a company that's going to sponsor you a visa, a working visa. And so that's where the issue comes, because if you're an F1 student, you have to completely switch from being an F1 student to being a J1 or H1B visa holder. The website that I used to kind of make that list was Residency Explorer. So you just go search up Residency Explorer, but there's also other ones like Doximity. But Residency Explorer is the one that I used. I think it was the most accurate of all of them. And when you go onto Residency Explorer, you can only create an account when you're ready to start application. You get like your application ID and all that stuff, and then you can actually log on to Residency Explorer. But when you log in, it kind of has a lot of options. It gives you the option to put in, you know, your name, what specialty you're trying to match into, if you're an IMG or not, and then it also gives you option to put in your scores, so your step 1 scores and your step 2 scores, or your complex level 1 scores, level 2 scores, and then it shows you a list of all the programs available to you in that specialty. And so for me, for example, I was looking into neurology because I was trying to match into neurology, and so I searched specifically neurology programs in the US, and you have the option to filter based off of the visa that you want. And so for if you're an F1 student, you filter with the F1 and the H1B filter and the J1 filter if you're looking into J1 sponsoring programs as well, and it will show you all the programs. I specifically was looking more into H1B programs, so I filtered by F1 and H1B. You're gonna notice when you're doing your search that a lot more programs sponsor the J1 as compared to the H1B visa, because with the H1B it's more expensive and usually the programs have to pay for you, but it is a better visa, whereas the J1 visa is what a lot of people would offer. You pay for it. It has more limitations, which I will get to in a second, but it's just the one that's more available. The programs that tend to sponsor H1B are like the medicine programs, like internal medicine, family medicine. Those are the two big ones. When I was doing my search for neurology, only about 46 programs in the whole of US were sponsoring the H1B, and typically people apply to like 80 to 90 programs unless you're very sure of yourself and you apply to 50. And so I had to 100% include other programs like J1 programs as well in my list. But yeah, so these are the limitations with J1 and H1B. With an H1B visa, your program is sponsoring you for that visa, and it's like thousands of dollars to sponsor each person, and they apply for you. Usually it's about 3 years that you have the visa for, and you have the option to extend it an extra 3 years. The great thing about it is it's one of the visas that can that gives you the option to apply for a green card. The J1 visa is a completely different visa. It's like an exchange visitor visa. It's the visa that a lot of IMGs are going to have to use when coming in, because you're coming from outside in. It's typically 1 year. You have to apply every year or renew every year, and by the time you're done with your residency program, you have a requirement to leave the country for about 2 years, which obviously is not the best if you're going to do residency here and not get to actually work as an attending here.
I lost my audio here, you guys, I apologize. But for physicians on the J1 visa, in order to waive that requirement, the 2-year requirement, you have to practice in a health professional shortage area after residency for the next 3 years, and then you're good to go. Health professional shortage areas are like rural areas or underserved environments where doctors are needed. I'm not entirely sure if there's other ways for physicians to waive this requirement, as I've heard is exceptionally difficult, but these are things I will talk about on a separate video.
This is something that I will do more research on, and I will have more people who are kind of more experienced about the visa talk about it. This is something that you're interested in. All this information you can also find online. So one of the things that also kind of stressed me about the J1 versus H1B visa is that with the J1, because I'm an F1 student in the US, I was told that I would have to actually go to my home country and apply for a J1 from outside of the country. Applying to switch to a J1 visa from an F1 visa is something that's very difficult to do, and sometimes it could take like months, like 3 to 4 months.
I lost my audio here again, you guys, I apologize, but technically the main issue I was having was that some of these residency programs that were only sponsoring J1 visas did not allow for an OPT to a J1 switch. And so what that meant was that if I was to match into these programs, by my first year, I would have to be on a J1 visa. And in order to do that, I would have to leave the country to apply for this J1 visa. Applying to switch from an F1 to a J1 while in the US physically, like I said earlier, was apparently difficult, and it would take me 3 to 6 months, which would delay my start of residency. Hopefully things change in the next coming years, but this is just something to bear in mind as you're applying to J1 residency sponsoring programs, especially for my F1 students, so you're well prepared before the start of residency.
But I just wanted y'all to kind of have a big picture of the H1B versus J1 and how to start thinking about making that list, the list of programs that you want to apply to is also really important. What are you looking for in a residency program? Other things aside from the visa that mattered to me were things like location, being close to my family and friends. I already don't have as much family in the US, so being close to people who I kind of know and my family that I've made here was like important to me. Was it the end all be all? No, because there are other things that were more important to me, like the visa, but location was definitely a huge factor in making my when I was applying. So location mattered, other things like scheduling too, like, how like rough is the schedule. Other things people look into are like if it's an academic institution versus not, if it's a research institution, research heavy institution or program versus not. For people who are interested in research, some people prefer community programs and apply specifically more to community programs. Do they have fellowship programs? It was important for some people to get residency at programs that already have the fellowship that you're interested in, and just like what the patient population is like, if that's a patient population you want to serve. So there's so many things that go into what it is that you might want in a residency program. You probably might have a list already in your head. You can look into what other people's what kind of like priorities that he had. If you want to know what my priorities are, definitely leave a comment in the comment section and I will make another video. I literally wrote everything down, but I don't want to make this video too long. But I could list out like what mattered to me the most when it came to ranking my list, and I could share all of that with you. But it changes, it's very different per person, and it's very different per specialty as well. So yeah. The third big thing I would say when it comes to preparing for residency application is getting connections and mentorship. That's always going to be important, and it's even more so important for residency. In as much as your scores definitely matter, especially if it's a competitive specialty, 100% yes. Having good mentors, having connections, I think that helps a lot more than you think. Try to get yourself to do audition rotations. You can do audition rotations in the hospitals that you're interested in. Go to a hospital and you work for them, see what the environment is like, and that does not only help you to get that mentorship or a good letter of recommendation or whatever, but it also helps you to have a feel of the environment. Like, do you even see yourself working in this place for years to come? Are you comfortable? Do you like the people? Other ways to build mentorship and connections is going to conferences. Like, you could do research conferences. It could even be just from your like school club or organization, and you get to meet people, reach out to people often, and gain that mentorship from them. The fourth big and final thing is to really hone in on your interviewing skills and your like people skills and your talking skills. This is something that you're kind of used to. Like, you've been interviewing for a while now. You've done med school interviews, work interviews, research interviews. When you're applying to residency, you're honestly applying for a job. You're going to be working with these people for years, and you're going to be working with them most of the time. Like, you're working with these people 80 hours a week, 6 days of the week, sometimes 7 days. Sometimes you're doing 24, and you end up spending more time in the hospital than outside of the hospital. And so when you're doing these interviews, they're looking for people that are personable. They're looking for people who they're comfortable interacting with, people who would make a good class, a class where everybody can get along with each other. And so these seniors are like studying you. One of the questions that you're going to get asked is, why the specialty? Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years? How do you intend on impacting this field? What is so important to you? Like, they're just trying to get to know you is what I'm trying to say. You don't have to impress anybody. Just do a deep soul searching, hone in on those interview skills, and just get ready to have a great year after. The application process tends to be the hardest part of this journey, and then you have a few more months of just like chilling, really. As long as you do all the work before, you're in good hands. Those are the 4 big things I would say that you can do to prepare yourself for a successful residency application. Hopefully you found these helpful. If you have any questions, as always, leave it in the comment section, and definitely don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, join the family, and I'll be dropping a lot more goodies on my channel as residency allows. I'll see you guys on the next one. Stay safe and stay blessed. Love y'all.